The night is silent, except for the sound of rain kissing the roof of their small wooden cabin. The world outside feels distant, almost forgotten. Inside, a single candle burns, its golden light touching the edges of two weary souls who have fought too many battles and lost too many dreams. Jamie stands by the window, his broad shoulders shadowed by firelight. Behind him, Claire moves quietly, pouring warm water into a wooden tub. Neither speaks. They don't have to. Their silence is full of memories, pain, and something far stronger than either time or war could destroy. Love, * the storm had passed hours ago, leaving behind the smell of wet earth and pine. For the first time in days, Jamie and Claire were alone, no soldiers, no noise, no danger creeping behind every corner. Just the sound of rain, falling slow and steady, washing away the fear that clung to their hearts. Jamie sat by the edge of the bed, his shirt torn, his skin marked by the life he never asked for. His eyes followed Claire as she moved, graceful, gentle, her hands busy but her heart elsewhere. She was heating water, her face glowing softly in the firelight. For a moment, Jamie forgot the battles, the scars, the endless struggle to survive. All he could see was her. The woman who had crossed centuries to find him, to stay with him, to love him despite the world's cruelty. Claire's hands trembled slightly as she carried the pot of steaming water to the tub. She didn't want him to see the fear that still lived behind her calm expression. Every time he left, she feared he might never return. Every time he came back, it felt like a miracle she didn't deserve. Tonight, she needed to wash away not just the dirt of the journey, but the weight of their shared pain. Jamie rose quietly and walked toward her. The floor creaked beneath his steps. She looked up and for a second, they stood still, no words, only eyes speaking truths that couldn't be said out loud. The warmth between them wasn't from the fire. It was from the knowing that after everything, they were still here. He reached out, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "You should rest, Sassenach," he murmured, voice low and heavy. She smiled faintly. "I will, once you do." The light flickered, shadows danced along the walls, and the night seemed to hold its breath. It was in these rare, fragile moments that their love felt most real, not in grand gestures or wild confessions, but in the quiet act of staying, of choosing each other again and again. No matter what came after, Jamie knelt beside the tub, his hand touching the surface of the water, warm, safe, human. He looked up at her again, his eyes soft, his voice barely above a whisper. "The world may tear itself apart, but here, with ye, there's peace." The fire crackled softly, casting golden light across the room. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, but inside, the world felt still, as if time itself had chosen to rest. Claire knelt beside the tub, dipping her hand into the water, testing the warmth. Steam curled upward, brushing her face like a soft sigh. It smelled faintly of lavender, the last bit she had saved from her garden, carried through storms and distance, now poured into the bath for him. For Jamie, he stood near the hearth, watching her. His shirt was gone now, revealing the marks life had carved into his skin, scars that told stories of battles fought and lost, of pain endured and survived. But in the glow of firelight, those scars looked almost beautiful, like symbols of love paid in sacrifice. Claire's eyes lingered on them. She had mended many wounds before, but none had cut as deep as the ones she could never heal, the ones inside his heart. Jamie stepped closer, his breath visible in the dim, warm air. "It's to find a thing for the likes of me," he said softly, glancing at the bath. His voice carried that familiar mix of humor and humility. Claire looked up, smiling in that quiet way she did when words failed her. "You've earned a bit of peace," she whispered. "Even warriors deserve warmth." He reached down, his fingers grazing hers as he touched the edge of the tub. The brief contact sent a shiver through them both, not from the cold, but from the weight of all that had been unspoken. For years, they had faced every hardship side by side, but moments like this, moments of gentleness, felt almost fragile, too rare to last. As Jamie lowered himself into the water, he let out a slow breath. The warmth wrapped around him, easing the tension in his muscles, softening the memory of pain. Claire poured another jug of hot water, careful not to break the silence between them. The sound of water meeting water filled the room, steady, rhythmic. Like a heartbeat, Jamie's gaze followed her every move. "You're still caring for me after all this time," he said, his tone low but filled with wonder. Claire met his eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. "I always will." The flicker of candlelight danced over their faces. There was tenderness there, but also a kind of sadness, the kind that comes from knowing how fragile peace can be. Outside, the forest creaked and sighed. Inside, two souls found shelter in each other's presence. Claire took a cloth and dipped it into the warm water, running it gently across his shoulder. Jamie closed his eyes, his body relaxing under her touch. The fire popped again, a reminder that life, even in its quietest moments, still burned with fierce beauty. For a while, they said nothing. They didn't need to. Their silence spoke louder than any words could. In this hidden corner of the wilderness, they had built something stronger than fate, a love that refused to fade. No matter how cold the world outside became, and for that single night. Wrapped in warmth and candlelight, Jamie and Claire were not soldiers, not survivors, not ghosts of time. They were simply two people bound by love, healing through touch, and safe within each other's arms. The cabin was wrapped in silence, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels alive. The kind that breathes between two hearts that have already said everything without saying a word. The fire whispered softly, its flames flickering against the wooden walls, painting their faces in light and shadow. Claire sat beside the tub, her fingers tracing small circles in the water. Her thoughts drifting between the past and the present, between who they were and who they had become. Jamie watched her with quiet awe. He didn't move, didn't speak, just let his gaze linger, like a man seeing something sacred. Her hair, loosened from its braid, fell in soft curls around her face, glinting gold in the candlelight. Every line, every freckle, every breath, it was all too real, too fragile, and too precious. He wanted to reach out, to touch her cheek, to remind himself she was truly there. But he didn't, not yet. Claire dipped the cloth again and pressed it against his chest. The warmth spread across his skin, and for a heartbeat, he forgot the weight of the world. She moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid that one wrong motion might shatter the peace between them. Her touch wasn't just tender, it was healing. It said everything words never could. "I missed you. I need you. You're home." Jamie's hand rose and caught hers in midair. Their eyes met, his full of quiet strength, hers glistening with unspoken tears. Neither smiled, but something inside them did. That silent exchange, that look, was louder than any promise they could make. It spoke of battles survived, of nights spent apart, of years stolen by time and fate, yet somehow reclaimed here, in this moment. The water rippled gently, breaking the reflection of the candle flame. It danced like their love, soft yet burning, fragile yet endless. Claire's fingers tightened slightly around his. Jamie brought her hand to his lips and kissed the back of it, slow and deliberate. He didn't have to say thank you or I love you. The gesture alone was enough. For a while, there was nothing but the soft sound of water and fire, two elements that had always mirrored them. Fire and water, passion and calm, war and healing. Together, they made something whole, something eternal. Claire rested her head against the edge of the tub, her eyes closing. Jamie reached out and touched her cheek with wet fingers, his voice barely above a breath. "You look like peace, Sassenach." She opened her eyes and smiled faintly, her voice trembling. "Peace only exists with you." Outside, the wind sighed through the trees. The world was vast, uncertain, and cruel. But inside this tiny cabin, the universe had shrunk to a heartbeat shared between two souls. They didn't need words. They never did. Their silence was a language only they understood, the language of love that survives everything. As the night deepened, their breathing fell into rhythm. The candles burned lower, the water cooled, but their connection only grew stronger. In that small, sacred space between silence and touch, Jamie and Claire found what the world had taken from them: peace, love, and the quiet promise of forever. Asterisk the fire had burned lower now. Its glow softer, deeper, the kind of light that makes memories look golden. The sound of rain had faded into a quiet rhythm outside, and all that remained inside the cabin was warmth. And Claire's hand rested on Jamie's chest, feeling the slow, steady beat beneath her palm. Every heartbeat reminded her he was real, that he had returned to her once more, from the edge of loss and war and time itself. For a long while, they simply breathed together. His eyes traced her face like a map he'd studied 1,000 times but never grown tired of. Then his voice broke the silence, low, rough, and full of emotion he didn't try to hide. "Ye dinna ken," he said softly, "what it means to me, coming home to ye." Claire looked up, her lips parting as if she might answer, but the words caught in her throat. His tone carried more than just love, it carried relief, fear, gratitude, all tangled together like the years they'd lost. She reached for his hand, fingers slipping into his. "You've always found your way back," she whispered. "No matter how far you've gone, you've always come home." Jamie's eyes glistened in the dim light. He murmured, "but what if one day I can't?" His voice trembled, breaking just slightly. He looked away then, ashamed of the weakness he so rarely showed. But Claire wouldn't let him. She leaned closer, her forehead touching his. "Then I'll find you," she said, her voice steady, her words fierce in their softness. "Wherever you are across time, across death, across everything, I'll find you." "I always will." Jamie's lips curved into a faint, broken smile. "You're a stubborn woman, Sassenach." She smiled too, her eyes wet but shining. "You wouldn't love me otherwise." The candles flickered again, shadows dancing around them like ghosts of the past. Claire brushed a drop of water from his shoulder, her fingers lingering there. "You've carried the world on your back for too long," she whispered. "You don't have to anymore." He turned his head slightly, his gaze meeting hers. "I can carry anything," he said quietly, "as long as you're beside me." And for a moment, everything stilled. The air, the light, even time itself. In that fragile space between confession and comfort, their love felt eternal. Not just a feeling, but a force, something born in pain, tested by loss, and proven again and again by choice. Claire leaned forward and kissed his forehead, then his temple, her breath warm against his skin. "You are my home, Jamie Fraser," she whispered. "You always have been." Jamie closed his eyes, his hand finding her cheek. "And you, Claire," he said softly, "you're my heart." The words lingered between them like a vow renewed, simple, honest, infinite. Outside, the rain had stopped. Inside, the world glowed quietly, wrapped in peace and candlelight. And in that rare stillness, to souls who had crossed lifetimes found what they had been searching for all along, not a perfect life, but a love that made the storms worth surviving. Asterisk the water shimmered faintly, disturbed only by the slow rhythm of their breathing. The candles had burned low, their light trembling against the rippling surface. Claire's hand drifted through the water, and as her fingers brushed across it, the ripples seemed to pull her backward into moments long gone, yet never forgotten. The bath became more than warmth. It became memory itself. Jamie leaned back, eyes half closed, his head tilted toward her touch. The steam curled around them like ghosts of old days, soft and familiar. In that haze, Claire saw flickers of the life they had lived, her wedding dress blowing in the Scottish wind. Jamie's laughter echoing through Lallybrock's fields. The first kiss that felt like a promise whispered to the universe. Each image floated through her mind like reflections upon the water here for a heartbeat, then gone again. She blinked slowly, and suddenly, the reflection in the water wasn't the cabin anymore. It was Paris, candlelit rooms, silk gowns, secrets whispered beneath chandeliers. It was the battlefield, blood and fire, her hands trembling as she tried to save the men she loved. The water rippled again, and there he was, Jamie, standing on the shore at Craignaden, looking at her as if love alone could hold back time. The images weren't just memories. They were reminders. Proof that every scar, every separation, every tear had led them back to this quiet moment. Every hardship had been a step toward finding one another again. Jamie opened his eyes, sensing her stillness. "You've gone somewhere far," he said softly. Claire smiled faintly, her voice low, filled with longing. "Just remembering how many lives we've lived to reach this one." He turned slightly, his hand rising from the water to touch her wrist. The candlelight caught the gold in his eyes as he said, "And I'd live them all again, if it meant ending here with you." For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them shimmered with emotion too heavy for words. The water moved gently, the reflections of light bending and breaking like the pieces of time they'd survived. Claire dipped the cloth again, running it along his shoulder. "Sometimes I wonder," she whispered, "how much we've lost to find this peace." Jamie's answer came quiet, almost like a prayer. "Everything we've lost made us who we are, and everything we are brought us here." The wind outside sighed softly against the wooden walls, as if agreeing. Claire looked down again, her face reflected beside his in the wavering surface. Two faces, one story. Past and present, woven into a single heartbeat. She leaned closer, resting her forehead against his. The water between them stilled. "Then let's not waste what we've been given," she murmured. "Let's live it. Every second we have." Jamie's hand came to her cheek. He whispered. "Together, always." The fire popped quietly, sending sparks into the dim air. The moment felt endless, a fragile dream that belonged only to them. The water's surface shimmered once more, and as the candles flickered lower, their reflections blended, one image, one love, one story that even time itself could not erase. Asterisk, the fire burned low, its light soft and golden, stretching shadows across the cabin walls. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a heavy stillness wrapped the night like a blanket. Inside, the air was thick with warmth and something deeper, something fragile but unbreakable. Jamie and Claire sat close, the space between them small enough for their hearts to touch even when their lips did not. Claire leaned forward, tracing the outline of his scar with her fingertips. The years had changed them both, left marks not just on their skin, but on their souls. Yet somehow, every wound, every line, every tear had made them more real. Her voice broke the silence, soft but certain. "It's strange," she whispered, "how peace feels harder to hold than pain." Jamie looked at her, his eyes reflecting the candlelight, steady, sure. "Pain we've learned to live with," he said. "Peace, that's the part we're still learning." His hand rose, brushing against her jaw, his touch careful, reverent. "But if it's you beside me, Sassenach, I reckon I could learn anything." Her breath caught. There was no grand gesture, no sudden kiss, only stillness, and the sound of the fire breathing between them. For years, they had fought the world, the distance, even time itself. But tonight, there was nothing left to fight. Love had survived every test, and now it simply existed, quiet, steady, infinite. Claire closed her eyes as Jamie pressed his forehead to hers. The warmth of his skin met the coolness of hers, and for a brief moment, everything else disappeared. The past, the battles, the separations, they were nothing but shadows on the wall. All that remained was now. The voiceover deepens here, slow, reflective, tender. They had faced war and loss, hunger and fear. But what no one ever told them was that love could be a refuge, a place to rest when the world turned cruel. A shelter not made of walls or wood, but of trust, forgiveness, and quiet strength. Jamie's hand slipped around her waist, pulling her gently closer. Claire's head rested against his shoulder, her eyes heavy with peace. The firelight flickered across their faces, painting them in gold and amber. They didn't need to speak anymore. Every heartbeat between them carried more truth than words ever could. For a moment, the world outside felt miles away. The cabin, the rain, the night, all faded into something timeless. In his arms, Claire wasn't the healer or the time traveler or the survivor. She was simply his. And in her eyes, Jamie wasn't the warrior or the outlaw or the laird. He was just home. She whispered softly, almost to herself. I never knew love could feel like rest. Jamie smiled, a small, quiet smile that held everything: gratitude, exhaustion, devotion. It's the only kind worth keeping, he murmured. The camera would linger here on their stillness, their closeness, the soft rise and fall of their breath. The music swells gently as the fire dims. Outside, dawn begins to press faint light through the cracks in the cabin wall. The night has ended, but something eternal remains, the unspoken truth that even in a world full of loss, love is their refuge, their strength, their forever. Asterisk the fire had nearly died, leaving behind only a handful of glowing embers. The air was calm, heavy with warmth and the faint scent of lavender and smoke. Claire stirred slightly, her head resting against Jamie's chest, listening to the slow rhythm of his heartbeat. Outside, the first light of morning pressed gently against the edges of the window, pale, soft, and full of promise. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world felt suspended, caught between night and day, dream and waking. Jamie's fingers traced idle patterns across Claire's shoulder, his touch tender, almost protective. The dawn's come too soon, he murmured, his voice rough from sleep and something deeper, the ache of wanting time to stand still. Claire smiled faintly, her eyes still closed. It always does, she whispered. But we're still here, Jamie. We always find our way back. He looked down at her, and for a heartbeat, the years melted away, the battles, the loss, the distance. All that remained was the woman he'd loved across lifetimes. He said softly, we do. Somehow, we always do. The light from the window grew brighter, painting the room in gold. The steam had long vanished, and the last candle flickered once, then faded, leaving only the quiet glow of dawn.